Josh and Sean of the band Arms Bizarre. Welcome to Unscripted Moments, a podcast about propaganda.
Thank you for having us, Greg.
Appreciate you having us. Long-time listeners, big fans. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, I am delighted to have you here. I've been threatening for a long time to have you guys on the podcast, and so I'm delighted that it's finally working out on a beautiful spring day. And we are going to have a wonderful chat today about a little bit about, you know, your band and your lives in music, a little bit of propaganda, and then a lot about a cover that you all made, which everybody just heard leading into this conversation, where you did a rendition of Without Love by Propaganda. So, Sean, I'm wondering if you can just spend a second and introduce yourself a little bit to the listeners so they know a little bit about just kind of who you are.
Yeah, for sure. My name's Sean Pullman. I've been playing music since I was about 15, 16, bass mostly, in bands. And then I also play guitar. And as you heard on the cover, I've taught myself how to play piano a little bit. So I had to learn myself that way. And right now I'm currently in Arms Bizarre here with Josh. I'm in another band with Josh's wife called Feminine Death. And I'm also in a third band recording this weekend. So I love music.
Wonderful.
From Virginia Beach, from Virginia Beach, lived in Seattle for about 5 years, but otherwise I've always been here.
Awesome. And Josh, how about you?
My name is Josh Webster. I play in a band with Sean called Arms Bizarre. I'm from here, Virginia Beach. Been here most of my adult life. Grew up in Norfolk, the next little city over. Music wise, have definitely I played music for a while, did a lot of singing in bands. And this current band that we're in, it's like a 10-year-old band at this point. I kind of learned how to play guitar in this band. So that's kind of been the main music thing that I've done. Yeah.
Awesome.
About it.
Well, Josh, I found you because of our mutual adoration of Propaganda, obviously, a couple of years ago. And we've been kind of keeping in touch a little bit on Twitter over the last couple of years as the podcast has gone on and on and on. And so, Josh, I'm wondering if you can just keep going a little bit on, your background of like finding like punk and Propaganda and kind of getting into this world that that you and I kind of found each other in.
Yeah. My entrance into punk in general, or like indie music, underground music, was Tooth and Nail Records. Like I was a full-on like Tooth and Nail boy.
Awesome.
And the first like actual show I ever went to was this band called Starflyer 59.
Yes.
And like I've been in love with them like ever since. And so like through Tooth and Nail, like I just like discovered punk and kind of got turned on to all these other bands that came out of the scope of for lack of better words, Christian music. I was a church kid, so it was like discovering this whole new world of music that was like okay within like the church. I mean, for the most part, not really, but you know what I mean? Like it was like, oh, this is Christian punk, this is Christian metal. And I think shortly after seeing Starflyer, like MXPX was the next band that I would have seen. And I just fell in love with two sounds, shoegaze and punk. And again, with the Tooth and Nail thing, like it was just, we were exposed to all these other things because they weren't a punk label, they weren't, so I just fell in love with like all this stuff, punk and metal. And definitely, I don't know, it was cool. Found Propaganda like probably like before Potemkin came out. But my introduction to them was Today's Empire is Tomorrow's Ashes. And it was at a skate shop, which might as well have been a music store because we were just drenching ourselves in new music constantly. That's all we did, so it was really awesome. So I guess, I kind of found Propaganda through them, being around all these skate and punk kids and, and that blew me away. It was like, holy cow, this is a good band. And kind of been on it ever since.
Sean, what's your origin story with regards to Propaganda?
I'm always amazed that he didn't hear Propaganda until Today's Empire is Tomorrow's Ashes, because I think from hearing your podcast, the more typical, I heard No Effects and then Fat Rat Comps and Nation States was the first song I heard by them, and immediately, not only me but my friends, we were just all like, this band is a step above everybody else. And I've been listening to them since then, since I don't even know what year that was, but middle school. And just following them since that record. And even as my music tastes have changed as I've gotten older, I've never left Propaganda. Like I don't listen too much punk anymore, but Propaganda is still my favorite band and has been for a long, long time. Despite whatever else I listen to, whether it be metal or really soft, indie rock and all that stuff, I still can always go back to Propaganda and feel at home.
Because they're the best.
Yeah.
They're so ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, as you can see behind me, you guys can see a little bit of my record collection over there. I'm trying to branch out in music again, because for years and years I listened to tons of music and tons of bands, and then doing this podcast the last couple of years, it got so like laser focused on like just Propaganda. Like I listen to so much, it's been ridiculous. So I'm trying to broaden my musical consumption again a little bit. But Sean, I was just 20 or 30 minutes ago, I was on a walk in my neighborhood and I listened to a new interview with Fat Mike from NoFX on Brooklyn Vegan podcast. He just did like a 20-minute interview about the new punk rock museum in Vegas that he just opened up. And at the very end of the interview, he basically says that How to Clean Everything is his favorite Fat Records release ever. And I'm just like, it's crazy to think amazing about like the influence, like even for this guy who's been involved in music and putting out records with his label for decades, to still be like, yeah, Propaganda, How to Clean Everything, define the sound. Right. It's just really unbelievable that how influential and inspirational they've been. Do either of you have any like cool stories about seeing them live that you were like, that memories that stand out in like a live setting or anything?
So I've seen them several times, and I've actually, my band, we played with them on the Supporting Cast tour in 2009. We opened for them here at Virginia Beach, which was like a crowning achievement for me, for my band, just to be on the same stages or that they were going to be on. It was amazing. But yeah, I saw them very early, I think just after Today's Empires, Tomorrow's Ashes. I saw them in Seattle when I lived out there, and then saw them when we opened for them, and I haven't seen them since 2009. So, but all of the shows are just unbelievable, and I try and pull as many people as I can to that show, and I'm like, trust me, this is going to blow your mind how good they are.
Amazing. Okay. Josh, did you ever get to?
I've seen them at least twice. No clue when. I'm pretty sure Potemkin is what I can remember. I have no clue, to be honest with you. Anecdotally, though, like the show that he's talking about, of course, I can't remember which podcast episode you guys had, but it was the journalist from North Carolina, I think Wilmington, North Carolina, who smoked weed with Jord outside the club. One of our mutual friends hooked Jord up with the bud that they were smoking. So that's kind of cool.
Nice.
In theory, he's the one, since he did hook them up with the bud, So, I like to think that was our friend's weed, man.
Amazing. Cool. Yeah. I love the way that I love when listeners of the podcast will refer to a moment in an interview and be like, oh my gosh, I was there too. Or with the ways that interviews overlap each other, be like, oh, I remember when so-and-so was on and they talked about this. Yeah, I was there too. And here's my additional memory, how it's all like, just like builds on top of each other. You know what I mean? It is. It really is. It's so cool. Yeah. Let's get into what you all have done. Okay, so tell me a little bit about Arms Bazaar, the sound of your band, kind of like what you guys are going for, the mission of your band and things like that. Tell me a little bit about your story as a band, and then we'll dive into what you've done with your rendition of Without Love.
Yeah, man, I started this band, I don't know, it was like post other bands. It was at a time where I think life was super weird for me, like just a lot of like trying to start music with other people and other people kind of being like, nah, I'm good, and people that I thought would want to do music. So I just like kind of picked up a guitar, acoustic guitar, and started recording on a laptop. Just, they're really bad songs. A lot of them are recorded and on our Bandcamp. I've just kept them there. Some of it's kind of cringy to me, to be honest with you. But yeah, so I started it. My sister, Rebecca, she joined in. Then a coffee shop friend, a guy that I had been hanging out with on lunch breaks, pounding coffees in between shifts, Barry. And he just like, he was a cool dude. Bad Religion was like his favorite band. So like we connected on music immediately. He started playing drums for it. And it just kind of, we've been kind of a collective for years. Because then, you know, comes the bass player, and then comes, and I mean, my wife played in the band for a little while and played keyboards and backup vocals and stuff like that. And we just kind of evolved from kind of a collective, weird, jammy type band. And I don't mean that in like jam band terms, but just, I don't know. I'm not going to compare it to Lou Reed, but like, just, you know what I mean? Kind of velvet ground, very loose, probably not very tuned type stuff. And as the years have gone on, I mean, honestly, like I've gotten a little better at guitar. I'm no Chris Hanna, but I've gotten a little better at guitar. And, you know, I've always been into so many different types of music, you know, even like kind of the lulls that I had of not listening to propaganda would have been listening to bands like ISIS and just being thoroughly obsessed with these just heavy bands. So like we've kind of progressed into a heavier band. And I think we're probably sitting more in the realm of maybe the band Hum. I think what is the band you guys love? Everyone in the band loves Failure. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I think we probably sit in that category now. We're definitely not punk. But I don't know, man. Like it's turned into something that like we're super proud of at this point. And we've been through some members. Sean's been in. He's the newest bass player in the band, but it's been almost 5 years, correct?
Yeah, maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah, maybe 3 or 4. And so I don't know, man. Like mission of the band, I think, is simple. It's art. You know, we don't beat ourselves up for not making a lot of money. It's not a hobby. I don't call it a hobby. We're serious about like what we're doing. All of our newest music is just so much better than even the last few recordings that we did in 2019. So I mean, mission wise, I just, you know, I want to play music and I want to, you know, share the stuff that's on my mind with it.
Yeah.
And maybe make some sort of dent in the universe.
Yeah. Well, I love that you brought up Failure too. I love the record Comfort. That was one of my favorite records for a long time. I'm probably going to listen to it tonight now that Failure has come up. And then Hum put out this record a couple years ago.
So good.
Inlet. It's wild.
It's amazing.
Oh god, damn good.
It's that if anybody out there remembers Hum, they put out a record in 95 called You'd Prefer an Astronaut with a Zebra on the front cover. A lot of people probably remember that. It was in like all those like Columbia House CD club, things like that. That's how I got it. I was in that CD club. But Inlet, they put out this record like a couple years ago during the pandemic, I think, and it is unbelievable. So if anybody out there is looking for something amazing to listen to, go listen to Hum's most recent record called Inlet. It is amazing.
Yep.
So I hear all these influences on what you guys have done. And so you all just did this amazing cover of Without Love from Supporting Cast. I want to hear your thoughts on Supporting Cast as a whole. Sean, do you have thoughts on that record as far as like how it stacks up for you in Propaganda's, you know, catalog?
Yeah, I mean, it is the best record for me. I mean, they're all so good. It's funny. I do this with a band where I'll say this is the best record, and then I'll go and I'll listen to. I was just listening to Potemkin City Limits, and I was like, well, this one is pretty close. And I mean, they all just have like a special spot, but no matter what, I mean, Without Love is my favorite Propaganda song, period. And so the whole album as a whole is the most solid in my book as far as taste goes. So I just love every song on it.
Amazing. Josh, what do you think about that record?
I love it. It's a beautiful record. It's well done front to back. Sometimes it's my favorite record. It's a very hard choice for me to make right now. Failed States is just, I just love that record. There's just something about it, you know. But I think that when, like Sean said, like if you're gonna show somebody propaganda, like that's the record to do it with, because you get the splash of, I mean, to me, like their whole thing, everything that they've evolved into. Even, you know, I think you brought it up in past podcasts about just, you get like some songs that remind you of the older versions of the band, and you know, just those little essences of for lack, like skate punk. You know, it's such a damn good record.
Yeah,
very good record.
Nice. Okay, so Sean, this is your favorite propaganda song ever. Are you the reason why this song got picked for the band to do a cover?
I think so. Yeah. Well, Josh, I mean, you sent out a list, and Josh sent it to me and said, we need to do one of these. And I was like, man, we should do Without Love, because for me, like, it's my favorite, and I wanted to try it. And I didn't know how to play it before we started, but I looked at all the others, and I was like, well, some of these might be a little less challenging, but I was willing to go through it. So yeah, I would say I'm the reason, because I think we looked at a few others, and then I was like, no, we got to do this one.
And to me, it was like an easy yes. It's like, yeah, let's do this song. I mean, I think off of that record, outside of Coach's Corner, like, let's face it, that song it's just epic.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
it just blew me away emotionally and lyrically as well when the record came out.
Yeah, I think that's part of it for me, is I tend to pick songs from bands that I wouldn't say it's a far departure from some of the Propaganda. Definitely has some songs that hit that emotional, you know, pull on your heartstrings a little bit, but this one is so good at it. And it was the one, when I first listened to Supporting Cast, that I was blown away by. It really hit me. So it's always kind of been there, and I tend to like songs like that are a little bit different from their other stuff. You know, it's universal. Everybody has to deal with life in this way, you know, and death in this way, and so it's a special song.
Yeah. So let's talk about your version. I've listened to it many times in the last couple of weeks. The vibe reminds me of like Ben Gibbard meets Metallica's The Unforgiven. And so that's just my initial first impression. And I want to know a little bit about the adaptation process, because what you've come up with is not a true to the original cover by any means. It is a very new creation. You went into a very different direction with it than I was expecting. I was completely blown away. Tell me a little bit about the adaptation process of what you all went through to come together with this sound.
Well, honestly, it went in a totally different direction than we thought it was going to. And we sat down. Sean kind of took it away when it came to like really doing the tracks. I pretty much, like, we brainstormed the first day, messed with a few different things, tried to figure out maybe some changing the tempo, little options with the tempo, turning it into, like, the initial thought process was turning it into a heavy, like, slowed down metal-esque version of it. And it just didn't, like, I don't know, it just didn't happen. Like, we definitely slowed it down, but I don't know, it just kind of turned into, it doesn't even sound like an Arms Bazaar song, you know. It just took a life of its own. I mean, Sean can kind of, like, he had to put in the work, like, because I just can't play that well, you know. Sean really, like, did a good job with it, which he can tell you about, like kind of the process part. Because after the first brainstorming session, he was just like, a couple days later, hey, what do you think of this? And it's like, oh, okay, this is great, and kind of went from there.
Yeah, we like Josh said, we started and we had like two different versions. One was the heavy version that wasn't quite working, and then we had one that was like weird coffee shop vibe, had like some Latin percussion on it. It was a little bouncy. And that, like, after that day, I went back and listened to him and I was like, none of these feel like the song needs, like the emotion that the song needs at all. And so I wanted to go in that direction. And I've been trying to like teach myself how to play piano. So I knew how to play the song on guitar. And I was like, well, I was literally just messing around one day and I made it. I started playing it on piano, and I was like, well, that sounds cool. So let me just throw down a beat in Logic and then try and go that way. And it just kind of evolved into this. So I recorded everything that I did, and then I threw some guitar on there, and then I threw some bass on there, and it just kind of went. And I remember the biggest challenge we had was the bridge in the middle, that it's not off time, but it was a little challenging to record, but I made it work. We got it through. And so that part that you mentioned that sounds like Unforgiven was, I hope you'll forgive me. It was totally by accident. I didn't mean to do that.
The same thing, Greg.
I didn't even hear it until later, when I was like kind of done. I was like, does that sound like Metallica? Oh, not that that's necessarily a bad thing. It's just not what I was going for. It just kind of happened that way. So I would say everything just kind of evolved into the end song. We didn't have a end game in mind. I wanted to do the song justice as far as the emotion goes. And then because I'm behind on content consumption, I realized after we had already recorded that it sounds kind of like what Chris did with the consensus break from, or I forget what the whole thing is called.
Chris
those different versions of the songs. I was like, oh, this kind of feels like that, but that wasn't what I was going for either.
That is excellent. And I was going to ask you what the hardest part was, so I'm really glad that you answered that question for me. And I just got to say that this is the release week for a new Metallica record, so I'm very much in Metallica mode right now. So I was all about it when I discovered this little similarity to Unforgiven, because I know it was an accident, but I love that song, and I was like,
jam.
Yes. So I was super into it, and I'm actually going to see Metallica in Montreal this summer. So I'm seeing Metallica connections all over in the world right now.
Nice.
Okay, so I want to know about the instruments that we're hearing on it, the tracking process, any stories that stand out about the technical aspect.
So the drum is all Logic drums that I let Logic kind of come up with it, but then I had to like make it my own, just do editing in my own way. And then, but the heart of it is the piano. It's just synth piano, MIDI piano. And there's two different versions throughout the song, kind of going throughout, piano and then like a synth pad. There's just the regular guitar and regular bass, and that's pretty much it. And acoustic guitar too. And so yeah, I just kind of went through and did it all. And the guitar I pretty much played exactly like they play, just slower, obviously. And then at the end, when it starts to build up, the song builds up, I kind of made it my own as well. My favorite part is the very end of the song, where he's singing with the melody of you can hear the piano, and then in the actual recorded version, the Propaganda version, where he's singing the melody of the guitar. It's my favorite part. I feel most accomplished because I had to like literally learn how to do that, and it took me a long time to get it down, but I got it down. It came out sounding really good. So and then when we were done, I brought it over, and Josh is just a fantastic singer, and he's so confident, and he did the lead vocal, the harmonies and everything. And then I just mixed it and edited it all, put it all together.
Yeah, but I mean, even the vocals were a challenge.
They were, yeah,
because it was just like, and no matter what I heard coming out of the headphones, I was still inclined to hear the album version. And
yeah, so like the phrasing, because it's slower, is challenged to kind of hit where it was, and we had some slight disagreements on where things start and stop and all that, but Josh made it sound really, really good.
Yeah, it took a couple tries, but we pulled it off.
Yeah.
It was like a pretty fast, for all intents and purposes, a fast vocal session. Worked out.
Amazing. I'm wondering about the content of the song. We already mentioned earlier that this is a very deep content in the song, and I'm wondering if either of you have like a personal story or a connection to this one that jumps out, that kind of makes this song extra meaningful for the content.
Do you want to go first? Do you have anything? I have too much. God, Greg. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, this song is like, it's one of those songs. I lost my dad to leukemia. However you say that, it sounds shitty, but my dad passed away because of leukemia back in September of 2021. So like, that song has definitely been one of those songs that puts me in a place, I think that it's just, even though knowing specifically, the story with Kronos, Chris Hanna's cat, like, obviously the idea of love being universal, being able to love an animal, the way you love another human. It transfers. Like, I even at one point thought about changing the lyrics in our cover from "As Crony Slipped Away, I Held Her in My Arms," and I thought about changing it to "As My Father Slipped Away, I Held Him in My Arms," but I was just like, I don't think I want to do that. But it was like a thought that was kind of on my mind for a minute, and then I thought maybe I'd have to spend too much time editing lyrics, and it was hard enough to like focus and actually learn the lyrics. It's one thing when you're singing along, and rocking out to your favorite record or whatever, but then when you really sit down and look at the lyrics and focus on learning these lyrics without staring at a phone while you record. But yeah, like right now, like I've shared it. I shared the cover with my family, with my mom and with my siblings, and they were like, "Who is this?" What I told them it was a cover, and so maybe I turned some of my family on propaganda. I don't know. But yeah, man, that song is just, it's like, it's a tearjerker. It's one of those songs that they've written, that they've done, that like is a legit tearjerker. And I love that it is a vulnerable subject. I love that just the idea that Chris was afraid, like, not maybe not afraid, but was hesitant to being that vulnerable, even with his bandmates, trying to decide if it was a song that he was going to share with his bandmates. I don't remember if that was from his podcast or yours. I listened to way too many podcasts, but it's just, yeah, man, God, what a song. It's just, it's a tearjerker, man.
Yeah, it is. It totally is. Yeah.
Especially when you're like really sad. Like, it's one thing when you listen to this song and it puts you in a somber state and makes you think about things. But when you sad, oh my God, man, like, it's one of those jams that will get you. It will get you.
Sean, do you what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Like I said before, it's so universal to even maybe if someone hasn't died, but just losing a relationship or a long-term friend that just kind of lose touch with, we all have these moments in our lives where we can look back and say, you know, please don't leave me. What will I do? That is heavy for me. And I've been there, in many of my relationships, family, friends, even with my wife at one point before we were married, and just not knowing what I'll do without, that love. And it kind of informs, and especially more recently after my son was born, just like how I should live my life and how I don't want to be, an asshole, because I want to make sure that people know that I love them. And when I am an asshole, I try to say sorry every time, because I just want them to know, like, please don't leave me. I need you around, So yeah, that's just how I feel. It hits me that way.
Amazing. Well, you both have created something really special here with this cover. I'm delighted that you went through with it. How long did it take? Like how much time are we looking at in this investment here?
Like 2-3 weeks, maybe.
Yeah. It's kind of
all told. Yeah.
Do some stuff, listen to it, do some stuff. But I mean, the honest truth is, like, Sean put in so much work into this, and it really, like, when I heard it like done, I was just like, holy cow, like this is beautiful, this is perfect, I can definitely sing to this.
Do you think you would play it live with the band ever?
We let the rest of the band hear it and they loved it. I don't know, man. That may be one of the songs I put the guitar down and grab the microphone.
Yeah, we could do that. It would take some doing, because I play bass in the band, so Josh would have to play bass. The piano, we'd have to find somebody to play piano. We're only a 4-piece, so yeah. It would take a little bit of logistics, but yeah, it could be fun for sure.
Amazing. Well, why don't you guys go ahead and tell the listeners out there where they can find you? Maybe if you have some music that you'd like to, if people were starting to listen to your band for the first time, like where would you recommend they start? Just some things like that you want to, tell the listeners of the podcast about.
Definitely Bandcamp, because it's got everything is there. It's I'm pretty sure what bandcamp.com/armsbazaar. I'm on Twitter, but like, I don't know, I share some band stuff. I always throw a little bit out there what we're doing, but it's, I don't know, Twitter's a shithole right now. So find us on Bandcamp. We're definitely on Instagram. We're on Facebook sometimes. We're there, but I kind of neglect that Facebook page probably. But yeah, I mean, definitely, like, we got some recordings, we got some music, check it out. If you start at the beginning, just realize you're taking a journey. Like I said, I feel like my early stuff is cringe. So, but what we're doing now, what we're putting out, the past couple of years, it's been good music,
Very good.
Yeah. So check it out.
Well, I am truly delighted that you both were willing to, organize a way to you could both be together to talk about this. Hearing both of your perspectives on it just adds a fuller perspective on what the process was like to create this absolutely wonderful, almost like haunting and very atmospheric rendition of this song. I really enjoyed it. I'm so glad that you two were both willing to do this and hang out with me today. It's been a real pleasure to have this conversation and also to feature this wonderful cover that your band Arms Bazaar put forward. So I'm just very thankful.
No, I'm thankful too.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, the pleasure is definitely ours for sure. So,
You're just counting down